Good evening, everyone. So, what are we going to do today? We are about stones and jewelry. And I want to pass on a few pointers on best practices for photographing your work and especially for the newsletter and for publication online, your website, and so on. One of the very first thing you need to do is preparing your work to shoot. You have to make sure that your work, if it involves metal and even stone, that is free from scratch. The trick to avoid scratch is never to use a macro lens. You use probably a 50 millimeter lens for those of us who know about camera. But today we're doing it economically. We're going to talk about the cell phone.
Perfect.
Yeah. So
I don't have a Lycan.
you have a Leica.
I don't have a Lycan. I said I don't
Okay.
have stuff like that.
Okay, all right, no problem. We don't need it. We don't need it today. So preparation is tantamount to a beautiful shot, right? And that means if your work has metal in it, you have to make sure that it's polished and you keep your gloves on because you will make mistakes. So if you're alone, you have no help, you're setting up a little studio such as this one here, you need to keep your gloves on at all times because you will make errors, you will touch your stone, it needs fingerprint. And if you're doing macro, and these phone cameras are really good these days, and it will show up and you're not going to like it. If you want to avoid post-processing, which can be very expensive if you don't know how to do it yourself, you want to make sure that you get the shot right the first time. In the old days when we used films, we didn't have the option of editing, lighting, and cast. Yeah, we had to get the shot. We
They don't even know anything.
we had to get the shot right there in the box, in the studio. Perfect. There was no way of sharpening, of changing. Absolutely. If you have to remove shadows, you're going to have to sit down and cut that film yourself, and it's tedious. But now life has become quite easy for us, so anybody can be a photographer. Not really. It takes a lot of practice. It takes an eye. You have to have that eye. You have to know what you're looking for. So what I want to introduce today for first and foremost is the little box, a tent, beautiful, but you know that you see the cast that it has a cast, so it's really not giving a good reading of what you have shot. So when everybody sees color differently, right? So in that way, you have to know your own eye, know what you're looking at, and use a second or a third eye. That means somebody else that sees differently from you.
Not this time and
You said it.
Okay, so we want to do an economical shot. We want it perfect. We want it to look as if Giovanni shot it. Okay, so this little contraption here costs less than $50. I can't remember how much I paid for it, but it was under $50. Okay, and it comes with the tent, 4 different sheets in 4 different color. So it comes in white, it comes in gray, it comes in red and green. So if you need to shoot something against a green screen, then you pull that sheet out. But if you're shooting your jewelry, you don't want to shoot it against green. You do not. A person, yes. A doll, yes. You want to go neutral, and that neutral is gray, not white. We are set up here with white now because I took out a turquoise stone. So against the white, it's easy for post-processing to actually chop away because it is not competing with the background. You have a question? No? Okay. So this contraption comes with 2 lamps. Yeah, it's called a tent. Two lamps. It comes with a stand and a mini tripod, and also a cell phone clamp. So it actually has a clamp on which you put your cell phone into it. It's hold your cell phone quite firmly. I mean, it's cheap. It could be a lot better, but not for under $50. It still is sturdy enough as long as you don't shake or you don't have an earthquake while you're filming. But one of the things you need to consider when you're doing a photo shoot is to make sure that your image is sharp. And with cell phone, everybody think they're a photographer and they click and they can't get a sharp image no matter how. The cell phone has become so bad for our eyes that we don't know when the image is sharp anymore. So therefore, you have to work and practice with your cell phone over and over, understand what it can and cannot do, understand the distance at which you get the best images or the sharpest images, and work with it. And then when you're done, you want to make sure you scan through and dump all of those images and start again, because you have to now begin to train your eye to see properly. One of the problems we had when I was going to art school in photography is that we don't know how to sharpen our image. You remember when we have those split screens, when you look at it and it has to, the image that you're looking at is split in the lens, and then you have to make sure that it comes in line and a milli macro distance off, you don't have a sharp image and you're going to fail. With cell phone these days, we no longer know what a sharp image is because we look, we see, we click, the image never gets sharp. So always, 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 always use a tripod. Yeah? This is another apparatus that will give us not only, even if the image is not sharp, inside of our cell phone or camera, this will keep it steady. So you don't want to ever shoot your work freehand whatsoever. Always, always use a tripod. Now, let's say we are shooting our first object, and that is a stone. This stone is curvaceous, it has many sides to it. If you're shooting a three-dimensional object, how many shots do you need to have?
Three.
Three. Can you name those three?
Profile, side, parental.
Repeat.
Parental.
Parental.
Portrait.
So, yes, you need, depending on the dimension of three that you have, you need a top.
Top, front, and side, right? Like the
Front.
The top,
Mhm.
front, and the side profile.
Side.
Yeah.
But what happens then if your object is, for example, stones? When it comes to stones, and for example, you're selling the stones, and this is now, we're going off portraits because what we're doing is a portrait for a magazine, but we're doing a portrait of a stone. So if we're documenting, which is a totally different level of photography, if we're documenting the piece of work, the three-dimensional work, we need how many sides? We need five, 4 to 5 sides. Yeah? So I'm saying to you, just giving a one shot is not going to make the image good enough. You have to give us three minimum angles of the work that you are showing and the best sides. Just like how some have a good side. You focus on the best side of the work, and especially if you're selling online also. So you want to make sure that your hands are clean. You never ever touch the work with your fingerprint. Your work is polished, pristine, clean. Now, for a stone such as this, which has a flat back, or you might want to show it or you might not, because sometimes an ugly photo will turn off a buyer. Yeah. So where this has no interest at the back, don't bother to show it. Yeah. You're going to go for the top. Yeah. And I'm touching it with my hands here, which I shouldn't be doing. You want to go for the top of the image and you want to go for two sides. Yeah. And the most important angle of all is 30 degrees. 30 degrees means 30 degrees from the level where it's sitting up, and then you tilt your camera down at it. So you're actually getting a 45 kind of degree angle of the entire thing. So you're getting the top, you're getting one or two sides. So you're getting three sides from that angle, right? And when you're doing that, you want to make sure that your camera distance, what you see in the camera, remember, what your eyes are looking at is not what your camera is seeing. Always, always remember to see through the lens of the camera or the screen of your cell phone. And that's why some of us don't get good shots, because since we never ever use the real camera, we don't know how to use a real cell phone. Yeah? So therefore,
I'm curious, when you're talking about this in terms of like a flat stone, or you said the rocks and that, I have never been able to get a really good picture of the crystal, a cluster of the crystal.
okay, it's interesting because I took up that the grand prize to shoot because I thought it would be more interesting than something as flat as a turquoise. So the crystal has a lot of reflection. It's throwing light, bouncing light all over the place. The trick is not to put direct light on it, period. No direct light. The light should always be diffused and as flat as possible. How do you make a flat lit object look interesting? Camera, the point at which you use your camera. So the camera is going to create the contrast of light and shadow based on how where you place the lens, the eye of the camera. Okay? So let me put this on the stage. So one of the problems you're going to run into with a piece of crystal is that because it has all these tentacles going in different directions, the shadows become a problem. And this is why you want it as flat as possible. So you want your lights to be diffused and dispersed as well. You don't want to have any direct light hitting it, right? And so if you want to come up a little closer and take a look at how
Let me get you a white crystal. Let me get you a white crystal.
But you'd have to put it on a blue background or
How about I
something.
get you a bigger one? You want a bigger one?
the reason why we don't want to put it on a blue background is because it's going to
Reflection.
reflect the blue, right? So we
Yeah.
want to keep it neutral. So
Yeah,
gray is the best
You would
color to
bounce
shoot
the
it
light
against.
off the back,
So
point the light in the back.
so the reason why I wouldn't bounce light if it's a
Same
moving light, because of the same
No, not
reason.
moving.
Okay, so we want to have more light. We want to hit it from the top. We want to hit it from the sides, and we want to hit it, and we want to bounce it from the back,
No, that's what I mean.
and we want to bounce it from the top. So you're going to need more lighting. You don't have that, right? You take this off and you make use of your overhead lighting. So what I like about these industrial lights that I've grown accustomed to is that they are shadowless. If you have, like in a warehouse and you have these lighting, I found that they are shadowless, they don't cast any shadow, and they're great for photography.
This is what I'm referring to.
Okay.
When I take a picture of something like this, and it has reflection off of it, and it shows depth, and it also shows that there are some down and some up. When I take the picture, it's very flat, and I get
Yes.
no reflection at all.
Okay. So you need to control all of this lighting. All right. Come on this side.
I'm gonna sit over here,
Okay.
out of your way. But you see how it glows, see how you get the sparkle look about it? But when I get it, it looks like it's flat.
It
I
all
found that all I did is a lot of glare.
it, it,
Sparkle all over
it
the
is all again the trick
Right.
of the eye on the camera. So I am standing here looking at it and I'm seeing a beautiful reflection, but the camera is there.
Yeah.
Right.
So the camera has to be here. So I have to move. It takes a lot of work. One project, one piece of work can take all day because you have to move around the image to see where the lighting has to be constantly moving. You have to move it to get to a state where you have the best reflection. And as you are moving your body and your eye, you have to stop right there. And then you have to bring the camera with your tripod and place it right there.
But you're showing it on it. You're showing light on it, direct?
Mhm.
No? Yes?
Mhm.
You said
Yes.
don't do direct.
Mhm.
It's okay to do direct on that?
Actually, it's not direct. Direct is like
Yeah,
this.
it sparkles too much.
It's I'm bouncing the light from the side here.
So it's better to bounce it off the wall than to do it direct?
Side.
Absolutely. From the side. So what you want, the best light for something like this, as I said, is to use your what we call incidental lighting.
Right.
Yeah, the lighting within the space that
Right.
you're in,
Yeah.
and then accent lights. So these would be
Those are
your
accents.
accents. Yeah?
Okay.
And then you want to watch where your shadows are falling.
Okay.
And you need to get rid of them. You need to close them in as much as possible with additional light.
I guess you
So-
you do that with both lights, having two lights.
More lights.
Because if I do it with one light, it'll give me shadows on the other side.
So one of the beauties of photographing a ring, for example, is the double shadow.
Mhm.
It gives the ring an impression of it being on a pedestal. So what we do is we bring the shadow in from either side, and you have two faint rings on either side of the base of the ring, right?
Mhm.
And that gives it a kind of look as if it's sitting on a pedestal created by the shadows. So with this thing, it's very difficult because it's pointing you in every direction. So you just want to focus on one side, So it's not sharp, and that's a problem. It's not sharp either. So what you want to do is to focus on one direction, move your eye around until you find that sweet spot, and then you set up your camera and your tripod right at that spot, and you take your shot, and you check it before you move. Don't move anything. Don't move the camera. Don't move the tripod. Check it at that very same position, because if you tilt it just a millimeter, you've lost that little light that you saw.
So you're taking a picture from one side that still has light on it from the other side?
Yes.
But you're concentrating on this light. Say that one's shining on it. This light is the one for that picture from that side. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. You see what happens now? As I move this one, the shadow changed to the opposite side. So it's all about playing with your light. And for example,
And does that get the sparkle? I mean, it looks. See, the problem is in the picture. I get a picture. I get that, and then when I take the picture,
It's not there.
Yeah,
You know?
again,
I'm like, wait a minute, you
again,
were shining like heck, and why aren't you shining in my picture?
again, angles. It's all about where the light is hitting. You have to study what you're photographing. You have to study it as you would study a human if you're doing a human portrait. You have to study the piece. You have to know it very well, know where you want to hit, set it up, and move the light around so that you get the best shot possible.
So in other words, you put this light in just to put on the opposite side. That's just to put light in the
In
on
this in the
on it,
set.
so it doesn't have as many shadows. Then this light is to zero in more on the actual beauty of what they are. It's not looking at the shadows as much as the other one was.
Why don't you come right here and look at what the light is doing? So you have to, it's a study. In art,
I think it's an
we
aggravation.
say still life, a still life, a study. And that's what it is. It's a study of light, shadows, color, texture. So move the light around. You go ahead, move it up, move it down, move it around, but
See,
do
I
it
would take it
slowly
more-
and watch the movement of the stone. The
You
stone
understand?
morphs into something different each time that you move it.
See,
And
that's
so
when I
to
would
bring
take it
out
right-
the character
right
of
about
your
there.
stone.
But you
it's
see how
all
it
about
sparkles? You see how it sparkles?
light,
I like that.
shadows,
And you don't get that in the
and
picture there.
texture.
That's what I want to
So
get in my
you
pictures.
have to keep
I want to know
moving.
how to
It's
do
not
that.
gonna
You need a
happen overnight.
box. You need one of these boxes.
I have a little one of these, and I have it in there, and I cannot get that.
I don't have
They
any
all
issues
look-
with doing this for, but it's just I've been doing it for a while.
Yeah, yeah,
It's the back.
I know. I need two lights. I think have I used two lights? Maybe not. But my light was here. My light was here.
Like it was like
I had one here, and then I had one here. And that's wasn't very good because okay.
We're doing documentary work here. Yeah. To spin something on a carousel and photograph it means that you have to use strobes. Boom, 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 boom. Or, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. So,
My husband paid you to do that.
He's gone. For a long time.
Yes. I do have a question now.
from 1997.
What's the question?
I noticed all over the internet now, it doesn't matter if you post photos, people don't want to see photos, they want short videos.
Yeah.
So that's what everybody wants, that's what everything gets hits on. When I post a photo of something, nobody cares. They only care if I make a video of like a tiger eye moving a little bit. You have to show a little video, like 10, 20 seconds these days.
It's all about interest. I'm a TikTok video.
Yeah, they want to see a little video. It's all about you say a few words.
Yeah, but we're not talking about videos.
Videos are different than
Videos. If you can take a good photograph, you can build a great video. End of the story. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you can put up a really bad video. Just
Yes,
the same.
really good,
And,
really
and,
bad.
and it's also possible to do a video which is out of focus. You know?
Although,
So-
videos are also about.
Presentation, remember, the staging is important. Presentation. How you stage the work is also important. Yeah? No, I just want to give you one
She's the
tip
next
and then
one.
I'm done. Rings. Yeah, I
The
brought
wing
this.
lights.
If you have a ring with a wonderful stone and you want to shoot it, a lot of people don't know how to make their ring stand up. They think that they have to string it and hang it and then shoot it. This is a piece of wax. It's a translucent sticky wax. So if you work with wax and you have translucent sticky wax, just put it under the base of the ring and when it's done, it will hold and it will stand up straight. And you have your shot. Is any other questions? Do we?
How do you check that you've got accurate focusing?
Photo,
Photos.
accurate photo,
Focusing.
focusing for the cell phone. Most cell phone has a professional setting. You can also select the lens that you want. You can select the aperture that you want, but you have to play with your phone to find out. Okay? The macro lens is great on this one that I have here. And however, you have to get really, really close for you to get sharp pictures. So I don't recommend it because it means that you're going to cast the shadow off the camera onto the image itself, and it will kill some of the lighting. So I don't recommend that. How do you get sharp pictures with your phone? You simply have to follow the instructions on your phone and touch the screen. Wait for the screen to give you the sharpest image that it can get. If it's not sharp at all, back off. Because usually if you're close to the subject and you're not getting a sharp image through the screen, it means that you're either too close or too far away. Right? So once you have the image in the screen that you want, this is the size of the image that you want. Yeah? Make sure you touch the object itself on the screen to sharpen it, and then if it's not sharpening at all, back off a little bit because you can always crop it. Yeah, you can always crop it, but you want to make sure that clarity, put on your glasses. Yeah, where even if you don't use reading glasses, just put on your glasses and check the image, because the cell phone is really, really tricky. It's very difficult to get sharp images because you don't know when it's sharp. It doesn't tell you. Some of them claim to tell you, but it cannot be trusted, because if you shift just a little bit, or if there's a vibration on the table, it's off.
Surely you would be better off using a real camera.
You'd be much better off using a real camera if you have one, but most people have parked theirs. Most people don't use, I use one. I still have a Bronica.
I was talking to someone in my class. I was dealing with National Geographic photographers. Do you use a Leica?
Lycon or Leica?
Leica.
No, I've never owned one.
But I hear they're good.
They are sweet.
All the new Sony's good. There's like a Sony SL, like EOS. Are those good?
I've never used the Sony. I tend to be a
Canon.
Nikon and Canon and Bronica,
like
the Leica. I'm kind of old-fashioned like that, but if I had one, if somebody gave me one, I'm not going to say no.
I know, Jim, it looks like a $2,000 thing, but it looks so beautiful.
Yeah. And if you have an old camera, if you have an old 2.25 camera, remember that you can get digital backs for it, so you can still make use of it.
Any other questions? If not, I'd like to thank Giovanni for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, what school did you go to? Where did you get that one?
This,
Yeah.
I think eBay.